The bishop stood in stunned silence as the flowers fell from the open cloak and scattered across the floor of his own chapel. Roses that should not have existed in that place, in that season, on that frozen ground. But the roses were not the miracle that made him fall to his knees. As the peasant standing before him unfolded the rough cloth of his cloak, an image appeared on the fabric itself, one that no human hand had painted. A woman, eyes lowered, hands clasped in prayer, standing on a crescent moon with the sun blazing behind her. The bishop, who had dismissed this same poor man days earlier, now knelt before him, weeping. Within 7 years, 9 million people across Mexico would convert to the Catholic faith, and the cloth bearing that image would still exist, unexplained by science, nearly 500 years later. This is the story of Juan Diego, a poor Aztec peasant who became the messenger of the most famous apparition in the Americas. It began in December of 1531, 10 years after the Spanish conquest of Mexico had shattered the Aztec world. Juan Diego was an ordinary man, a recent convert to Christianity, walking near a hill called Tepeyac on his way to Mass one cold morning. Suddenly, he heard music and a voice calling his name. He climbed the hill and found a young woman surrounded by light, radiant as the sun itself. She told him she was the Mother of God, and she asked him to deliver a message. She wanted a church built on that very hill, a place where she could show her love and mercy to her people. Juan Diego did as she asked. He traveled to the residence of the bishop, Juan de Zumárraga, and repeated her request word for word. But the bishop was cautious. He had heard many claims like this before, and he was not willing to build a church on a peasant's word alone. He told Juan Diego he would need a sign, some proof that this really was the Mother of God speaking to him. Juan Diego returned to the hill and told the lady what the bishop had said. She simply told him to come back the next day, and she would give him what he needed. But the next day, Juan Diego did not come. His uncle had fallen gravely ill, and Juan Diego spent the day caring for him instead, believing his uncle was dying. On the following morning, he set out to find a priest for his uncle's last rites, deliberately taking a different path around the hill to avoid the lady, ashamed that he had missed their meeting, but she intercepted him anyway. She asked him gently why he had tried to avoid her, and then she spoke words that would become the most famous line of the entire apparition. "Am I not here, I who am your mother?" She told him his uncle was already healed. Then she gave him his instructions. She told him to climb to the top of the hill and gather the flowers he would find there. It was the dead of winter. The ground was frozen, and nothing grew on that hillside except cactus and thistle. But when Juan Diego reached the top, he found Castilian roses in full bloom, a variety that did not even grow in Mexico, roses that belonged to the bishop's own homeland across the ocean in Spain. The lady herself arranged the flowers inside his cloak, his tilma, and told him to carry them to the bishop as the sign he had asked for. Juan Diego walked back into the bishop's residence and opened his cloak to release the roses. And that is when everything changed. As the flowers fell to the floor, the men in the room saw that the coarse cactus fiber cloth was no longer empty. An image had appeared on it, the same radiant woman Juan Diego had described, imprinted onto the fabric itself. The bishop fell to his knees. The church was built exactly where she had asked. The tilma should have disintegrated within 20 years. Cloth, woven from cactus fiber, typically lasts only a few decades before decaying. Instead, it has survived for nearly 500 years, hanging exposed to candle smoke, humidity, and the touch of millions of pilgrims for over a century before finally being placed behind glass. Investigators over the centuries have found details that remain unexplained. The stars on her cloak match the exact position of the night sky over Mexico on the date of the apparition, and reflections in her eyes appear to show the figures who were present in the room the day the image was revealed. Within 7 years of that day, 9 million people across Mexico embraced the Catholic faith, an average of more than 3,000 conversions every single day. A poor man who almost missed his appointment out of shame became the reason an entire nation changed forever. And centuries later, the image he carried down that hillside still remains, a woman with her eyes lowered in humility, still asking the same question she asked him that day. Am I not here? I, who am your mother?